You're listening to a Galactic Network podcast. For more, go to gncast.com.
We are the ElseNerds.
All right, and that says we are good, so I'm going to start going. Hello and welcome to ElseNerds, a production of Galactic Network. I'm Gregor Sprague, and joining me is Alternative Corey, Shawn Burns, and joining us is Shawn Scarfo. I forgot to ask. That's one thing I forgot. Did I say your last name right?
That is correct.
Okay, cool. And we're going to talk to him in a little bit here, but before we get to that, you can find all things on the show, including show notes and subscription links, over at ElseNerds.com. And for other info on the Galactic Network programs, you can go to gncasts.com. And on ElseNerds, we tend to shoot our mouths off without thinking, so we will both swear and spoil things without thinking, without warning. So this is your warning. Alternative Corey, how you doing?
I am doing fantastically today. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. And also, more importantly, Shawn, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
That's not a problem. But yeah, so let's just get right into the news. So in lieu of a third segment for the third week in a row, at least, we are, because there wasn't anything that really stuck out that was a big news story that we could talk about for like 20 minutes. So we got like 6 shorter news stories that we're going to hit. And the first one is that Sony Pictures has acquired a majority stake in Funimation. So are any of you guys anime fans?
Not in a while.
Yeah. So because some of the shows that are in with Funimation as a distribution company, Dragon Ball Z, Cowboy Bebop, One Piece, My Hero Academia, and the big popular one that everyone knows about, Attack on Titan. But with this deal, it's to pay $143 million for 95% of Funimation.
Wow.
The remaining 5% is going to remain with Funimation CEO Gen Fukunaga, and he will also remain he will also remain in his post as CEO. So this is big. I believe now, Sony now owns quite a bit when it comes to the Japanese animation side of things, because they got Funimation, which has a lot. It's mainly American distribution is what Funimation is. But you combine that with Animax and Kid Station. I mean, this is a big chunk of the Japanese animation market here stateside. So I don't know how you guys are. Like I've got I don't want to say a love-hate relationship, but I've got a dive deep into it and pull back relationship with anime and all that. Like I know there's a lot of my friends will probably be like, oh, okay, cool. Like that happened. Sweet. So it's at Sony. Awesome. But I look at this, I'm like, this is pretty cool, because this might be like they typically go to Crunchyroll. And for all the watching of the TV shows and stuff like that. And I think this could be leverage for Sony if they were ever to do their own streaming service. I don't know. What do you guys think about this?
Yeah, I could see it, because it gives Funimation extra distribution.
Yeah.
I have a Sony TV, which has, I think it has their affiliation with a service called Ultra, I think it's called, for 4K movies and videos, and it would add to definitely for their platform to be able to do something like that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Sean Burns, how do you feel about this, Sean? Other Sean Burns. Alternative Corey. And I think we lost him. Or
Oh,
he's
no.
muted. Who knows? Evan actually asked a pretty interesting part of this, because the other trend we're seeing now is the live action reboots, or the live action of anime shows. Like, I believe we're getting Death Note here soon. But Evan asks, will Sony get first rights to make movies out of the Funimation titles? I could see that. I could also see they're getting, like, if it's a Japanese title, like, being made in Japan, like the like the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood or Full Metal Alchemist movie that's being made over there right now. I could see them getting first rights to be American distributors at the very least. It's still produced by whatever company over there, but here it's Sony, or simply enough, just more Funimation, a Sony company.
Am I back now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
welcome back.
GarageBand decided to take over my microphone, I guess. So, yeah, I mean, when it comes to anime, you kind of know my thoughts on it already. So, but here's the thing. I really think the valuation of the company of 150 million, as someone who doesn't like anime, I've heard of 4 of those 5 titles.
Yeah.
My Hero Academia, I don't know, but I know Attack on Titan, I know One Piece, I know Cowboy Bebop, and I know Dragon Ball Z. So for someone like me who doesn't like anime and doesn't know anime, the big titles I know, 143 million sounds like it's actually going to be a pretty good deal for them. And this gives Funimation the Sony leverage and gives Sony the bigger catalog. So, I mean, it doesn't seem like there's much of a downside, except for if you're an anime fan and Sony gets in there and fucks stuff up. But, as long as they keep, they're keeping Fukunaga as the CEO. So it seems like they're going to let them continue to do what they're doing. So, I mean, it definitely sounds like a good deal.
Yeah. So the other part of this is with Sony being the owners, and Shawn mentioned it as well with the TV. This will also affect that TV behind me right there, the Vizios, because a lot of people don't know this, but Vizio is owned by Sony. This Vizio is Sony's American brand, and so it's one of those things, like, we could see it tied in more with that. I was hoping this would have. God damn it, the Wikipedia page doesn't have the shows on here. I was hoping it would, because I think there's more. Like, I want to say Ghost in the Shell was is one that was owned, or that was distributed through Funimation as well. All right, yep, I think this might have it. But yeah, I mean, Shawn, you're right with the whole it only being worth $150 million. Like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's
really.
It's a lot of money, but I would have actually expected this deal to be upwards of 250 or 3.
Yeah. Like, because I mean, I'm looking at this, like, another one you might know, Beyblade. That's a Funimation product.
Mm-hmm.
Devil May Cry, the animated series. Digimon.
Oh yeah, Digimon, I know.
Yeah. Where's some of the other ones? Oh, there's like the Case Closed series. That's another big show there. But I mean, and then FLCL, or Fooly Cooly, is another one that it is really good. It's a really good show, and actually they're doing a reboot. And also, like I said before, Full Metal Alchemist. Those are, like, that's like, and I'm only seeing a list of A through F for this. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure if I were to go through, I'd be like, okay, yeah, boom, boom, boom. There are a lot of shows in here that you might not know because you don't watch it, but you've heard of, like Ghost in the Shell, that is a Funimation product and all that. And it's there's definitely ways that this will affect you going forward and all that, which I mean, I for one look forward to these Sony overlords.
Nice.
All right, the next story is one that typically we wouldn't usually talk about this on here because we would save this for the resident Doctor Who expert, one Mr. Daryl Johnston, but since he is on break, I figured, hey, we'll take it. Basically, if you're expecting after the 2017 Christmas special, with this being the first, and this will be the first appearance of Jodie Whittaker as the 13th Doctor, and then, oh yeah, we just gotta wait till spring. Nope. You might want to pump the brakes there because it sounds like from reports now, and this hasn't been confirmed by the BBC, but it looks like we might have to wait until the autumn of 2018 for new Doctor Who with Chris Chibnall as the showrunner. Now, Shawn, not alternative Corey, how are you a Doctor Who fan?
Actually, no.
No. Okay.
I try to get into it, and it doesn't capture me.
Yeah.
I've heard the last two seasons it's supposed to be really good, but everything else has been bumped up my list. I haven't got to it yet.
Yeah. I always tell people who are Doctor Who curious that the easiest way to get into it is with a new Doctor, because that's what I did. I came in with Matt Smith. So, and I mean, like in his full season, not even the Christmas episode beforehand, to have the transition. It was just straight up like, boom, here we go. And, we're off. And I fell in love with it ever since. I binge watched these seasons before for as they call it, the new Who, with Christopher Eccleston, David Tennant. And now I'm on my fourth, technically fifth Doctor, if you want to count the War Doctor and get super nerdy, and stuff on that. Now, Bernsey, have you? I don't know. Did we ask you? You're not a big Doctor Who fan either, right?
Well, first of all, kudos on calling me Bernsey. I haven't heard that since high school, about 20 years ago. So, but yeah, no, actually, I never was a Doctor Who fan, and then last week I finally gave in to the dark side and said, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to try this. And the way that I got into it was I really enjoyed it started was I watched Broadchurch, and I really enjoyed David Tennant's performance on Broadchurch, and I liked him in Harry Potter, and I liked him in Jessica Jones. So for me, I started with the David Tennant, and other than getting past the spinning, attacking Christmas tree in the first episode, which was unbelievably easy, although I need to find out where they got those ornament hooks, because that tree spun at about 200 miles an hour and never lost an ornament. Mine can't survive the cats. So, But yeah, no, I've watched the entire season with David Tennant, the first one, and then I went backwards and watched the season with Christopher Eccleston, and now I'm actually on the second David Tennant season. So, no, I wasn't a Doctor Who fan, but in the last week and a half or so, I think I have become one.
Yeah.
So for me, though, it might take me till late 2018 to catch up on everything. So this might actually work in my favor. It happened for Game of Thrones. It happened for Walking Dead at one point. Shows get pushed back, but I find when the shows get pushed back, they come out better than the ones that are saying, we rush this through to get it out for the fans. Well, you're not really doing any fan service by doing that, because you're rushing out an inferior product. And honestly,
and honestly, this bit of rumor is coming from the latest issue of Doctor Who magazine, and a interview that they did with Stephen Moffat, the departing showrunner So I don't believe you've seen any of his work yet, Shawn.
Okay.
Or AKA Bernsey. But he says the alternative might have been to have had no Doctor Who at all between Christmas 2015 and autumn of 2018. That seems ridiculous. Like, that just seems really strange. So he did this where, he would take over and do these, while they're finding a new doctor. But this is going back to what it was before, so during the David Tennant era of Doctor Who, it was a fall series. It was a an autumn fall series, and then there might be a little bit spillover into the new year. And then it was, I think, one of the season 7, I want to say. It was in the Matt Smith era where they broke it into 2 parts. They did like The Walking Dead does, where it's, here's the first half, starting from Halloween, going like Halloween until Christmas, and then we're going to take a couple months off. We'll squeeze in a season of Fear the Walking Dead because, we all love that show, right? We all love that show. And then cut back to, Walking Dead and stuff. But now with this, I'm honestly, so Shawn, I'll ask you this. Have you watched Broadchurch?
No.
Or even, okay. So yeah, I would definitely check that out. You may have seen commercials for the American version of it. I'm forgetting what it was called, but it came out like 2 years ago. It was on Fox. Grace Point, something point. I don't know. It'll come to me. But the showrunner Chris Chibnall, that was the show that got a lot of people, a lot of attention from people, is that show. And welcome back, Bernsey.
Thank you.
Grace Point. It didn't sound right when I said it though.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, it's definitely something that you should check out. I believe we did mention it on the network a couple weeks ago when they announced Jodie Whittaker as the 13th Doctor. So you can check that out here, both on ElseNerds and on Who Knew in Review.
Okay.
But yeah, the third news story. The third news story is something that I'm excited for. I loved the original Hellboy, the Hellboy movie from 2004, and then the sequel. And then hearing about this casting or the reboot with David Harbour as Hellboy, I'm like, all right, cool. And that it was rated R, I'm like, all right, nice. And Mike Mignola's still involved, but they cast a big role in this, a key role in this. You might know this guy because he's currently playing Mr. Wednesday on American Gods. But he was in Deadwood. But the guy, the actor I'm talking about is Sir Ian McShane. I don't know if he's a sir. If not, he should be. But he is going to be taking over the role from, and this is a Doctor Who tie because John Hurt played the War Doctor, but he's going to be playing Professor Broom on the new Hellboy movie. It's tentatively called Hellboy: Rise of the Blood Queen. Mm-hmm. Basically Hellboy's father. This is great casting. And I've got, nothing, no ill words for John Hurt's, Professor Broom, but
it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved him in the second John Wick movie. Yeah, he really sold that, like, okay, you make a mistake, you're going down. And if he brings that kind of flair to Professor Broom, it'd be nice to see.
Oh yeah, definitely. So are you guys Hellboy fans?
I only watched the first two movies. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, that's about where I'm at too. And I think a lot of that's because for the comic books, I'd have to be getting into the old, like they've already come out with it. They haven't really released new comic books, which is, a little bit of a shame. I mean, I'd love to see new stuff, but Mike Mignola is busy as hell doing a whole bunch of other things. But yeah, I mean, it's cool to see all this, and I'm enjoying this. Bernsey, what do you think of this casting?
I'm in the same. I'm in the same position as you guys. I've seen the movies, enjoyed them, like the concept of Hellboy, and I only really know Ian McShane, I think, from American Gods, but his performance there was fantastic, and doesn't make me think that anything that he puts his mind to and wants to do, he's probably going to do a good job of it. He just seems like one of those actors. So, and knowing the character from the first movies and everything, I don't see any reason why he shouldn't knock this right out of the park. So,
no, yeah. So this is going to sound weird, but the first role I have ever seen Ian McShane in was and I cannot think of the name of it. I'm looking it up right now, but he was in the CBS show that was based on the it was based on the story of David from the Bible. And
okay.
Yeah, that one. I'm trying to find it.
Is that one of those ones that they usually have come out around Easter time? And
no, it was a show called Kings. So this is also where
okay.
It lasted for 12 episodes. He basically played King Saul. He played, the king before David in there. And this is also where I first saw Sebastian Stan in this. So, I mean, you get Winter Soldier and you get Mr. Wednesday and now Professor Broom from this show. And that's just one of those I like to just more throw out there because, a lot of people didn't know about it. And I loved that show. It had this real intrigue to it. But no, I enjoy this casting. I mean, I've loved seeing Ian McShane as Mr. Wednesday, and even with his role on Kings, it's I'm not going to say similar because there is some like conniving, getting people to do things that they might not necessarily want to do in both of them. But I could see him easily playing Professor Broom.
It's going to be an interesting twist. I mean, if you look through his, filmography from prior, he plays some of the awesome bad guys from animated movies as well as a lot of Disney movies, such as Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. He was Blackbeard.
Yeah.
How much more of a badass on a ship can you be besides being Blackbeard?
Yeah. So I mean, all in all, I'm looking forward to this. Isn't
being Bluebeard.
Yes, for audio listeners and the viewers who haven't really been able to see, Shawn's beard is blue. Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. So the next story is Star Wars Episode 9 is getting a new writer. Now, don't panic yet. There's no need to panic because I believe this movie is not set to release until 2019.
Yep,
2019. But the update there was an update to the article because originally when it came out they were crediting Rian Johnson for writing the movie or writing Episode 9, and he hasn't written anything for it. But the Colin Trevorrow has been writing Star Wars Episode 9, and it's going to be starting production here soon. With production starting January 18th of January 2018. It looks like we're getting a real quick run through by a writer named Jack Thorne. He's written a few screenplays, including the 2014 film A Long Way Down, 2014's War Book, and the upcoming Julia Roberts, Jacob Tremblay movie Wonder. And he's written or he's developed. He's worked on Neil Gaiman's Sandman, which is in production hell and will probably never see the light of day. Will become the new Watchmen project and all that. But so I'm excited for this. I don't think there's any need for panic yet, because it's August. You've got 4 months before they even start production. And it doesn't sound like it's drastic rewrites. Like it sounds more like what they're doing right now with the Justice League reshoots, which, like, it's more like, you bring in someone here to, punch up certain parts of it.
And
what do you guys think about this?
Could be interesting. I mean, I was very disappointed with episode 7, and then they fixed a lot of the story mistakes with Rogue One, and I was very satisfied with that. If they go back to the original story of episode 1 without fixing any of these story mistakes, it's just going to be a repeat of episode 1, and with something involving another Death Star like device. And I think right now we have 4 out of the, it's either 4 or 5 movies dedicated to some kind of Death Star, some kind.
Yeah, it sounds about right. But honestly, I have no idea, and I do not plan to know any idea about episode 9 because I have not seen episode 8 yet. I've seen some pictures, but it's not movie stills. It's like behind the scenes or, promotional stuff for the movie. I haven't seen a thing on 8. And I've done that intentionally. I'm going into this as clean as I possibly can. Because I already, my philosophy with movie trailers is, once I see it, I will watch movie trailers until I want to go see the movie. So usually, like with Suicide Squad, it was very early on, but Suicide Squad is a good example because they had released like 50 trailers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, all right, trailer number 37 is the one that finally sold me on the movie. Sometimes it's usually never that drastic because by that time it's just like, oh, it's a commercial for the DVD release, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go buy the movie now. But I haven't seen a thing on this. I've seen 2 Thor Ragnarok trailers, and I would have stopped after the first one.
Mm-hmm.
But I only saw the second one because a friend of mine's like, hey, can you explain the end of that? And I'm like, motherfucker.
Yeah.
God damn it. No, because I didn't want to. Okay, I'll watch it. Fine. I love the trailer. Don't get me wrong. I love the trailer. But it just made me go, I want the movie. Give me the movie right now.
Yeah.
Well, that's one thing they're doing different with 8 was you hardly see anything online. And compared to episode 7 and Rogue One was all over the web left and right. And now with episode 8, it's like almost nothing besides what they'll release at a Comic-Con or something, and that's about it.
Yeah, I think they did their Force for Change again this year with D23, where they had done some things, but it wasn't, even then, it wasn't a like full run of like, oh, here's our new droid that we have, and here's the whole cast, and look, they're sitting around a circle reading the script and stuff like that. There's nothing like that, which I've thoroughly enjoyed. The fact that there isn't much there. Bernsey, what do you think about this, about the new writer on this? Like the fact that episode 9 is getting a new writer so relatively closely before production.
Well, first off, for Suicide Squad, you're wrong. Trailer 37 was crap. 38 through 46 were decent. The 37 was crap. It's first off, they've already got the movie written.
Yeah.
He's just going to be doing a treatment of it. He's going to be the basics are there. He's just going to be fluffing it out and making sure that everything is cohesive. So I'm not worried about the timing. Because the timing isn't necessarily as bad as it sounds from, Star Wars 9 gets a new writer. I loved 7. And I may have been one of those that watched it with, rose-colored glasses, and it was all nostalgia for me and everything. Because, I'll be honest, when it first came up and it said Lucasfilm, I was like, oh, here we go. So
you had to excuse yourself to go clean yourself up and all that.
Exactly. I might have peed a little, but that's, but the whole thing, Star Wars is going, I think is going to be good no matter what they do with it, because it's Star Wars. They're not, yes, the prequels were for the original viewers crappy, but for the kids at the time, those kids loved it, and yes, my kids, grew up on that. And, I've now got a 6-year-old who's going to see new Star Wars movies and getting a new feel for it. So, I think they're going to be fine. It's going to make a shit ton of money. And if it's drawing that's the end, right? That's the end of the Skywalker saga is 9.
Yeah.
That's the end. From what I've heard in the past, that's the end of what George Lucas had planned out. He had planned out 3 trilogies. He just started in the middle and then decided to go into the past and now go into the first set of trilogies, now going into the third set. So we could in theory have, this is where we get into the extended universe, focus away from Skywalker, and have it focused on, some other part in the galaxy far, far away.
Right. I think this is a bigger deal because of the internet.
Yeah.
I think if this was 20 years ago and we didn't have an internet, we wouldn't, be sitting around in the coffee shop talking about this story. That much, I think it's a non-issue. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I'm I'd be more worried if it's a movie that involves quite a bit of CGI that's still in the middle of reshoots, and the movie comes out 3 months from now.
Yeah.
That's where I'd be more worried about it. All right, the next news story number 5, is that Warner Brothers Animation's casting director Andrea Romano has retired. She's been in the industry, the animation industry, for 33 years. She's best known as one of the key people in the DC animated universe titles, working on everything from Batman the Animated Series to the upcoming Young Justice: The Outsiders. From reading this article, reading about the stuff that she's done, she started in there as a casting director in 1984 for Hanna-Barbera.
Oh wow.
Working on the series The Smurfs and the New Adventures of Johnny Quest. And she's been a voiceover director for DuckTales, before landing over at Warner Brothers for Tiny Toon Adventures. And she has been nominated for an Emmy 35 times and won 8 of them.
Wow.
Yeah. So, this is an impressive career here that we've got. And, oh, wow. So, and her retirement, I didn't read the last part, which is, hey, keyword here, read the whole article. Romano's retirement comes after being diagnosed with optic neuropathy in one of her eyes, causing blindness in that eye. So it could be a earlier retirement than what she wanted, but at the same time, I look at this and I look at what she has done in here, making the casting choices. She's probably one of the people that we have to thank for, Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill being, a lot of people's first choices for Batman and Joker now.
Yeah.
So what are your guys' opinions on this? I mean, we can gush about the stuff of the casting choices that she has made all we want, right?
Well, shoot, I mean, I would say, at least for me, I grew up on Smurfs and Tiny Toons and DuckTales, and you keep naming all those off, and then even later on when the different Batman animated series started kicking out, and we've all watched it and enjoyed it at least a little bit. For her to be a large role in that's props to her.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would say go to her Wikipedia page and look at her list of work. I mean, you've got I've looked in here and she's done stuff for Phineas and Ferb. She was a voice director. She was a voice director for the Boondocks, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Legend of Korra, Voltron Legendary Defenders. And so it's she's all over the place. And so it's one of these things, you look at this and you're like, wow, this is over the course of what?
30 years.
Three generations, I would say. She's affected children's lives. Some children who just have not grown up yet.
She's worked on stuff that some people haven't even heard of, like Snorks. I remember that so much as a kid.
I did underwater Smurfs.
Oh yes. GoBots. I mean, the knockoff Transformers.
Yeah.
Some of these things that unless you've watched them as a kid, you wouldn't think people would remember it. Jetsons. She was involved in the Jetsons, Pound Puppies, Flintstone Kids. Jesus. She has been involved with all kinds of fun animated series. That's pretty awesome.
And that's also just the TV stuff I was pointing out. I mean, good God, she's done my childhood. I mean, that's basically what I'm getting at. She's cast my childhood because she's done Land Before Time 2 through 5. 2 through 5. She's done just about every DC animated movie out there. She's even done video games and all that. Did StarCraft 2. She was a voice director for StarCraft 2.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
And she did a really good job casting for Avatar, both of the Avatars.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's that series has probably been a tentpole for Nickelodeon for the last about 10 years now.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it's held up very well.
Yeah, and she's even done. I mean, she's even done voice work. I mean, she's been in a lot of the movies. A lot of the movies that she was in. She voiced Martha Wayne in Batman, the 2008 film Batman Gotham Knight. She's from 92 to 2015 she's done, granted they're not necessarily big roles, but they're it's more like, hey, we need someone to do this voice. we need someone to play, to voice the elevator, to be the innkeeper, or to play just the small little bit part. Well, I can do it.
Yep.
And on.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I suspect Shawn and I are around the same age, as he was rattling off those Saturday morning cartoons he remembers fondly, because I remember all of those same ones. But yeah, I mean, this woman has an incredible career, and I'm a huge Batman fan, and Batman the Animated Series was the thing more than anything that got me into Batman. And like you mentioned, Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, and even some of the later, I've been watching The Batman on Netflix.
Yep.
And some of their takes on the characters are really kind of bizarre. Like, for some odd reason, the Riddler is very reminiscent of Marilyn Manson. And it's just like kind of bizarre. But the voice acting on it is always on point. You know, and so if she's the person who's responsible for the casting and then the voiceover directing, I gotta hope that DC doesn't take a hit on this, because DC's animation has always been one of the things that, you know, the movies haven't been well received or as well received as the Marvel. Stuff tends to be DC better, more well received, but the animation stuff, DC is light years ahead of what Marvel is doing for most people. And if this is the person that was responsible for casting that and directing it, you know, we got to just hope we get lucky and get someone as good, because this woman was, you know, knocking it out of the park for 33 years. And I mean, 8 Emmys, that's, you know, that's quite a few on her mantelpiece there. So, you know, it's a real shame that it had to come to an end because of some sort of illness, but, you know, hopefully she can enjoy her retirement and live off the fruits of that work that she did and be well appreciated by the fans.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I got distracted by going down the link rabbit hole while you were talking. But it gives us a great way to go into our final story of the evening, and that is so some hackers got a hold of some stuff from HBO and have leaked, I believe it was like 7 episodes of the HBO series Ballers starring The Rock. Have gotten information on the forthcoming episode of Game of Thrones, and this is one of the weirdest hacks I've ever heard of, because they were asking for ransom money, like, you know, and stuff like that. It wasn't like, all right, here, you know, release it all out. It was, you know, first reporter to get a hold of us, we will give you an interview. Like, wait, so why are you doing this? I don't know. So Shawn Burnsy, you actually brought it to the docket. So you want to explain this a little bit?
Yeah, I think HBO just got lucky on this one, because what got released is minimal impact, I think. They got Ballers, which, let's be honest,
is a great show.
Is it?
A great show. Do not talk bad about The Rock. He will come in and kick your ass.
No, I wouldn't talk bad about The Rock. I like The Rock. I've never gotten around to this one, and it's never been like, nobody has ever come to me and say, you need to watch Ballers.
You need to watch Ballers.
Watch Ballers. I get it. But, you know, Game of Thrones, I think, is the big piece, and they only got next week's episode. So the impact of this
that
is
they've released. This
yeah,
is
they supposedly got 1.5 terabytes of data, which it could be like, you know, very few episodes, or it could be a whole crap load of stuff that they haven't talked about yet. Don't know even they probably don't even know what to do with some of it.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at the article, and it, oh, for God's sake, these ads. I'm looking at the article, and it says that so far an episode of Ballers in Room 104, which is a show I've never even heard of, have been put online. And there is also written material that's allegedly from next week's 4th episode of Game of Thrones. All right, that doesn't even sound like they have a whole script. That sounds like they might have some lines or a page or two or something. So I don't know. Unless I see more coming out of this, that I think that they've really kind of dodged the bullet on this one, or dodged the throne. Either one. They both work, I guess.
Okay, so I'm looking up real quick because I was curious. Room 104 is created by Jay and Mark Duplass, which Mark Duplass was on The League. He played Pete on The League, and Jay Duplass is on Transparent. He plays the son in there. and they had a show last year or 2 years ago called Togetherness, that they created and all that. But it's an anthology series set in a single room of an average American hotel. Each episode tells a different story of the assorted guests who pass through room 104. The stories range from funny and romantic to sad and scary. It honestly sounds like the show,
Boring version of American Horror Story.
well, there's that, or the show that's coming out on TBS, The Guest Book. That it looks that looks like it's solely going to be a comedy and stuff like that. But no, so that I'm curious now about Room 104. Not curious enough to go watch the pirated, works, because I like HBO. I want to support them in their doings things, and basically I try to go legit as I possibly can. But yeah, so my hope, honestly, is that these hackers have, with doing this, they've decided, that they're going to do the ethical thing. I should say, not necessarily the right thing, and say, hey, HBO, this is how we did it. We've done this stuff. You've acknowledged that we've done this. Here's how we did it. Because that's how a lot of hackers that I know of get jobs, for these big companies. The government is, they exploit a hack, and then now they've got their new, here's a new job, because hey, find me more. Where else are we missing, with holes in security and all that?
Who knows? I mean, this is so fresh that who knows if that's even going to happen. I mean, as much as I love HBO, Ballers isn't on my top 5 of favorite shows, but I still religiously watch it, but it is not in my top 5 shows. And I think releasing those episodes aren't probably going to hurt it very much, especially since Ballers left Miami to do this season. That's why a lot of stuff, if you haven't seen this past episode, is in Vegas.
Yeah.
As for the script, I understand why the creators are very sensitive to any kind of script leaking out. It's that anticipation that gets you to watch next week. It's that anticipation that makes you like fiend for it more. Like, my thought this past week is, well, where the hell is Arya? We didn't see her at all this past week. Yeah. So she's going to pop up next week.
And there's a part of me that thinks that that's why they're doing some of the things like this, to where you have, they did look at this and go, okay, what can we release from the 1.5 terabytes that we've got that is not going to necessarily get the most punishment, but is going to get us on the radar. So, okay, they released, I don't know if it was just the one episode of Ballers or if they released a couple, and then the episode from Room 104, but then they only did this with them only doing the script thing for Game of Thrones, because they knew if they released Game of Thrones, HBO, like if they released any video footage from the next episode of Game of Thrones, or like the season finale or something like that, that HBO would be on them like a bloodhound and all that. So I mean, I feel like they're playing it smart, but at the same time, I am not cheering them on at all. Like,
right.
At all.
I would agree with that. I mean, I definitely am not coming down on the side of the hackers. And even if they did release the season finale of Game of Thrones, I know there'd be a lot of people who'd want to go and look at it so that they could know before everybody else. But I think the majority of fans, I mean, that and Walking Dead are probably the two shows that people go to the greatest lengths to avoid spoilers. And this is like the ultimate spoiler for Game of Thrones, short of, George R.R. Martin or one of the two guys from HBO that do the show come out and say, okay, here's how it's going to end. Other than that, I think, the majority of the fans are not going to go out and try to get this. So I hope you're right, and I hope that this is something that they're not going to keep releasing information from. But at the same time, I don't think it's. I think people are making a bigger deal out of it because Game of Thrones is involved.
Well, yeah, it's a big moneymaker, and it's probably one of the top TV shows of the last decade.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And another big thing is every time a episode gets released, they got to pay a deductible to their E&O errors and omissions insurance. So for every episode that gets released, they got to pay that'd be a $50,000 deductible, just so that they can get any kind of money to try to start scrubbing all that information off the net or otherwise. You do that a couple times, and that's just going to start to hurt. And then when you go to get E&O insurance after the fact, for your next season, your premium just doubles or triples or quadruples. So instead of costing $1 million for the whole season, now it costs you $3 million.
No, yeah, definitely, and that's something to think about. So I don't know. We'll see where things go from there. With the hacks and stuff. But yeah, so real quick before we get into the ElseViews, I want to give a quick shout out to one of the ways that you can support us, help us out here at the network. Dave sent me something to read, so I will read it. If you would like to get an extra podcast from time to time, like a rundown of new comic books hitting the shelves, please consider becoming a partner with us. Go to gncast.com/support and click on the Patreon link. Just make a monthly pledge on our Partner Plus tier, and more extra content will be coming soon. We also have different rewards on our other levels as well, like getting your name mentioned on our podcasts or having a month of messages read as a Partner Pro. Again, to become a partner with us, go to gncasts.com/support. I highly recommend that. The other part that you will get in the gncast.com/support is the Amazon affiliate link that we have. That's super easy. You click that link, go through the process of doing your shopping. When you get done, check out, pay. We get money from Jeff Bezos. I like that idea. I mean, it's it's money from Bezos. But yeah, both those can be found at gncasts.com/support. And it is time for the ElseViews. This is the part of the show where we talk about the movies, music, TV shows, video games, books, comic books, everything that has been populating our minds throughout the past week or so. And Shawn, as our guest, I will have you go first because also me and Shawn get to talk about it again. Nice. But what are you bringing to our table this week?
This week is Spider-Man: Homecoming. There's obviously articles talking about how in this specific movie, the viewer never sees Peter Parker uses spider sense.
Yeah.
And I noticed that, but it didn't take away from this movie. And it was left out like it was a non-big deal, and because there was so much action going on the entire time, you really didn't even notice it unless you were looking for, really digging for it. And even his origin is completely missing from this. Completely missing for it. Sorry, guys, if I'm spoiling this for you.
Oh, no, we are past the part of spoilers. So,
yeah. Vince Gilligan rule 2 weeks.
Yep. So anyone that's listening that hasn't watched it, I apologize now, but there is no origin story for Spider-Man. And he talks like 2 seconds about bit by a spider, and that was it.
Yeah.
So how? Let me get a little bit background from you. Are you a comic book fan, or where were you coming at from this or going into this movie?
just from prior Spider-Man movies and other comic book movies.
Yeah. All right. So what did you think of the fact that they didn't have the origin story what would have been the third time? Not even a mention of Uncle Ben.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a surprise that they kind of bypassed that altogether. But I think at this point, I think the audience just wants Spider-Man.
Yeah.
They just want the action, the comedy, the sarcasm, just to get to the meat and potatoes of his story and antics. Versus, okay, we know he got bit by some kind of spider somewhere, somehow, and we know Uncle Ben isn't around for whatever reason, let it be his fault or otherwise. You don't have to beat the horse into the ground. And I think that's what they really did well with this specific version. This version does have some holes in it, in my opinion, compared to the prior ones, where I like Tom Holland, but the character he plays is too young. Like the character seems like he's 14, 15. And in the rest of the universe, he's always older, 18, 19, 20, 25. I haven't seen a 14-year-old Spider-Man before.
It's so with that, it was something that was done originally in the comics and gets done in the cartoons. So we spoke earlier in the news with the Andrea retiring, Andrea Romano retiring. She did a lot of stuff from all three of our childhoods. But one of the shows that was in my childhood was the Spider-Man, the 94 Spider-Man TV show that aired on Fox, and he was in high school in that. Now it went on long enough to where he graduated high school, went to college, and after that, but that was sort of the problem I had with the previous two. Is you cast Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, Joe Manganiello to work for where he's playing. In the first movie, he's playing around the same age. I think he might be a year older. So, but we're looking at 15, 16 years old, and they're 25. They're older. They look older than, and this is coming from a dude who's looked older his whole life, but they looked older than what you would typically think of a 15, 16, 17-year-old looking. And then you get to Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone.
Mm-hmm.
And they look like this is a 21 Jump Street approach here. Like they look like they're I'm blanking on the Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill coming in like, hey, we're just teenagers and stuff like that. This actually seemed like, okay, yes, he's teenager. If we're going to do this, which I agree with what you're coming from, because I would rather see him be, like in college, because then it's where you get a lot of more of the classic stories of him taking the photos of Spider-Man, and sending them to the Daily Bugle. This is also where we could get, J. Jonah Jameson back. Mm-hmm. And I say back because I do not accept anyone besides, I'm blanking on his name. God damn it.
J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like I do not accept anyone but him.
No, there's certain actors that cast in certain roles, and it's their role now forever. You just can't redo it. It's interesting, Shawn, that you picked this article because we discussed this specific article before the movie came out, but we didn't really revisit it afterwards. And I would almost take issue with the article saying that Spider-Man doesn't have a spider sense. I think he did in that movie. I just think it was the suit. This suit that we see in the movie is so much more technologically evolved than any other suit that I've ever seen Spider-Man use. And I think that the spider sense just kind of, because really, do spiders actually have a sixth sense about things? That always, that one particular ability of his always kind of made me, it was always a showstopper for me, to the point of it took me out of things, because it's like, okay, why can he detect this? What about a spider makes him able to do that? And so they kind of removed it from the character and put it as technology in the suit.
Well, I'm going to have to disagree in regards to how it was important. And shoot, we're talking about a comic that has like Doc Ock and Croc, people that people that can be a different animal altogether, or a different being altogether, and yet we're considering a spider sense being abnormal. But with this, it didn't focus on. It wasn't focused on that it wasn't there. It just focused on everything else that was, and pushed it to the limits, and also showed his flaws, where he's more curious than he should be.
Yeah.
I do like that part was really nice.
Yeah. And I agree with you there. I mean, I didn't miss it in the movie, even having discussed and read this article ahead of time. Fans go to see Spider-Man for two things: web slinging and one-liners. And this movie's got a ton of web slinging and a ton of one-liners. And it's exactly what you want out of your Spider-Man. You want those. I mean, still in my mind, a couple weeks later, the most memorable scene to me is when he's running through the backyard of the house, and they're watching Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and the scene of Ferris Bueller running through all the backyards. And as he's running past, chasing the bad guy, he just kind of looks over and goes, "Oh, great movie," and keeps going. And it's like, that's what I want out of Spider-Man. And this movie delivered that, in spades. So I didn't miss it. I totally agree with the points that you're making, that it was a really good movie. And this it wasn't focused on, so you just don't even notice it's not there unless you're looking for it.
I honestly think that what this will do, or at least what I hope this will do, that Spider-Man Homecoming will, is these big tentpole franchises, your Spider-Mans, your Batmans, your Supermans, that when you get a new movie from them, when inevitably they reboot the franchise, that they can go, well, do we need to do the origin story? No. Why do we? I can understand for some of these third or fourth tier comic book characters, like, of course, yeah, we're going to need an explanation on who the elongated man is, or who Stilt Man and 3D Man,
or even popular in, let's see, Iron Fist.
Yeah,
I had no clue who Iron Fist was until I saw the show.
Yeah, and so it's like, and so it's probably where like I'm trying to think of one that's coming out that wouldn't have, so like the Inhumans. I mean, that's one that you could probably you might need a little bit, but even then with that, it's such quick backstory. Like, I'm trying to think of a Marvel character or DC character right now that is obscure.
Well, I think like Captain Marvel, a lot of people beyond comic book readers, I don't think know as much about Captain Marvel. So I think when that movie comes around, you're going to have more of a backstory there.
Yeah. And but I think with the bigger, like these ones that have been successful now, especially Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, Captain America, they don't need a backstory. We don't need to see Uncle Ben die again. We don't need to see the Waynes get killed. We don't need to see Krypton blow up and all that. It's like it's one of those things, like, if it's happened enough times to where it's in pop culture, I think we can, in like everyone can quote it, even a 3-year-old who hasn't seen a superhero movie can quote it, then I think we can skip it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't remember who it was, but I heard somebody talking about this, and I think this is a great idea that every superhero movie should adopt. And that is old way of having opening credits. And while the credits are going, in the background, you tell the origin story in 10 to 15 panels. So as the credits are rolling, you're looking at the pictures in the background of Uncle Ben and getting bitten by the spider, et cetera, et cetera. And then you don't have to tell it in the story. The movie starts and you take off from there.
And there's pros and cons with either side of that. And the pros is that it gets it done quick out of the way. But in some aspects, it could suck the soul right out of it, unless this story's already been told.
Yeah.
Like let's think back to, say, the current show Daredevil.
Yep.
If you just showed his history in panels instead of doing the flashbacks during the show, to showing what he's went through, it would suck the soul out of what he's become and why he is the way he is. Versus if you do that, say, for today's Batman or even Superman, well, you already know the general story of what's created those heroes, and it doesn't suck the soul out so much. You just want to get to what makes it really great, such as latest Batman versus Superman, and you didn't have a real origin story of Batman this time. You had an origin story of Superman, and that was that was truncated, really short, and you got right down to what was driving that story for this particular time.
Yeah.
But in regards to this past Spider-Man, I gotta say I don't know. I wasn't enthralled. I wasn't sucked into the moment like it was on a prior Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield or even Tobey Maguire even. It seemed like, okay, this is a cool thing. Let's do it. Let's show it off. And okay, at the very end, there's Michael Keaton as the bad guy, which was freaking epic casting. He is, to me, the ultimate nice bad guy.
Yeah. The only other for the Vulture, and this is coming from Spider-Man is my favorite comic book hero, period, full stop. There was rumors with Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies that the Vulture was going to be the villain for Spider-Man 4, and that some casting rumors were of John Malkovich. Now, going from the comic books, that's a great casting choice. I mean, because John Malkovich has the look of the comic book Adrian Toomes and all that. But this is definitely not to take anything away from Michael Keaton. I loved Michael Keaton as this, and also I will ask you this: did you really see Michael Keaton's the Vulture as a villain?
I would say no, and that was the one thing great. That's why I call him the best bad guy, the best nice bad guy there is. And where at the very end he could have sold him out and said, "Hey, this is who he is, or this is where you can find him." At very minimum, this is where you can find Peter Parker or find Spider-Man, and he didn't. So it showed kind of a different tone versus even other Marvel movies that I've seen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and even then, you go past that, you get him doing, like all the stuff he's doing. He's not doing it to be bad. He's not doing it after a mental breakdown like Doc Ock had in Spider-Man 2, or the psychosis of the Goblin serum like the Green Goblin had in the 2 movies that he was in. I mean, it's just him trying to provide for his family. It's and it's him thinking, feeling like he's getting squashed on by the government.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
He's the quintessential sympathetic bad guy in this.
Yeah.
You feel for him. You don't agree with what he's doing, and he damages and does bad things. So you can't give him a free pass, but you certainly can understand, in law, I guess they call it mitigating circumstances that surround what he's doing.
Yeah.
He got completely screwed in the beginning of that movie. and his criminal activities were as a response to that to be able to continue to provide for his family, but still the bad guy, still hurt people. So, but I will give the movie credit on a big thing. I usually see those big twists coming a mile away, and I was truly shocked when it was Michael Keaton that opened that door. It to me was really just like, oh my God, I can't believe they just did that.
Yeah. Well, I still love the whole, the humorous dad talk in the car.
Yeah.
And the classic dad talk, like, go ahead and hurt my daughter and see what happens to you, kind of thing. I thought that was hilarious.
Yep.
All right. So, Shawn, do you want to do or Bernsey, you want to do yours? Marvel Munchkin?
Sure.
I'm assuming the board game?
The card game, yeah.
Yeah.
I was having trouble coming up with one because, literally what I've done this past week, and I keep using the word literally because I've been watching Parks and Recreation, but I've been going back and watching shows that I missed, and I in my nerd cred, and I've started watching Star Trek Voyager, and I've started watching Doctor Who, and I can't really come on and recommend those shows because I'm like one of the few that haven't seen them. So what I came up with is a game that we've been playing a lot over the summer and the couple months before summer, and that's the Marvel version of Munchkin. It plays a lot like Munchkin. There's a few different variations to the Marvel edition, but places like your classes and things like that with actual superheroes that fight by your side that have stats and weapons, and for instance, Thor's hammer, like say 3, for attacking, but if you also have Thor, then the hammer's worth 5, so it gives you bigger advantages if you can combine the right cards. Similar to in Munchkin, where you have things like, this is a +3 or +5 if you're a cleric. And then, same thing, you kick in the door, and with kicking in the door, instead of having the weird, funny monsters that Munchkin's known for, it has the villains of the Marvel Universe. And it's just a lot of fun, and it does the same mechanics basically as Munchkin, where you can recruit people or people can offer to help and you can split the treasure, etc., etc. But the Marvel of it, like Munchkin is great cake. They're on just that wonderful best icing, so it's been a lot of fun. We've got the first and second parts. There's a third part that we haven't gotten to yet to buy, but it's a blast. Me and the kids, my kids, 14, 18, and 20-year-old play this with me, as well as my fiance, and we all have fun. And the 6-year-old gets to sit and watch because he knows all the characters and stuff, so he enjoys watching too, even though he's not quite old enough to be able to comprehend how to play. He still enjoys it. So if you've got a family, you've got some kids, or or you're just a big Marvel nerd, this is a fun game, and it retails, I think, for $20, so it's really not bad at all.
No, yeah, that is
nice.
That is awesome. It's one of those that I had been looking at. I got the base Munchkin. I've been looking at the superhero Munchkin because the art is done by I believe it's either Franco or Art Baltazar, the guys who do Little Archie, Tiny Teen Titan or Tiny Titans. They do it's a great art style that is done. And I did not know that they had Marvel Munchkin. Actually, but no, I take that back. I think they advertised it in the comic books. I forgot that they did Marvel Munchkin. I'll put it to you that way. But yeah, I'm definitely looking at adding that to my board game library.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's not a very long game. It's the same as Munchkin. It's there's a little bit of a time commitment, but it's not like sitting down to play Catan or something.
No, yeah, it takes
being pronounced tonight.
Yeah, it takes as long as you want the game to go, because you can definitely in this game you could definitely be a dick and just be like, "Oh, you're at level 9 right now and we win at 10. And you got this monster coming up. I've got all these cards that can just fuck you over. Guess what? Fuck you now."
Yeah, my kids are very good at being vengeful in that game, and I don't know if I raised them correctly or that scares the hell out of me. I'm not sure.
Yeah. But no, yeah, definitely check it out, and we'll have a link to it in our show notes, as well as the movies that myself and Shawn have talked about. Because I'm going to talk about another movie. I'm going to talk about a movie that came out a couple weeks ago, and also much like one of my favorite films of the year, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, has a killer soundtrack, and that is Baby Driver. Now, this is written and directed by Edgar Wright. You might know him from Scott Pilgrim or any of the Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy, Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, and The World's End. And this, that was okay. Sorry, I'm reading the Wikipedia page right now, and I had caught a cameo by something, but I didn't realize it was for a music video that Edgar Wright had directed in 2003. But anyways, this movie, you follow the, and also I will include in the links a YouTube video that has the opening 3 minutes of the movie, side by side comparison, because it's all set in Atlanta, with the locations, actually Google Map tracing out the path that the cars take for this movie. But Baby Driver stars or follows the title character Baby, who is a young getaway driver with a great love for music, and who is coerced into working for a kingpin played by Kevin Spacey. From top to bottom, the casting in this movie is great. You've got Jamie Foxx and John Hamm and John Bernthal, Ansel Elgort playing Baby, and Lily James playing the love interest. Flea is in here, from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and they're all great. It's all great in here in this movie. The card, this has been Edgar Wright has been, like I said, working on this since 2004. I feel like this movie will be nominated for some sort of Oscar, Academy Award, Emmy, at the very least for the choreography, because every Ansel Elgort in here, with how he moves, it's like he's dancing. I should point out that the reason why one of the reasons why he has this love for music, you find, is that he has tinnitus, and so he listens to music to drown out the ringings in his ears. And he has 50,000 different iPods, all the older click wheel iPods and stuff. And this is one of the few movies that I've seen that I think the only movie I've seen that they did choreography to gunfights to go with the songs. And this you will notice, with the, if you get the song titles from there, you start with Bell Bottoms by John Spencer Blues Explosion. There's 30 songs for this soundtrack, some of which they don't play all of the show or all of the songs, but it seems like every time you're watching and there's a scene, there's this light undertone of the music. One of the great scenes I will explain a little bit in is with one of the heists. They're getting ready, and the Baby is listening to Tequila, the song from the Button Down Brass, and the guys who are supplying the guns, who are dirty cops, go, "What's he listening to?" And Jamie Foxx goes over there and goes, and it gets right to the point of tequila and all that. Then transforms into a gunfight because of ways that happen, and they're shooting, bang, 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 to the songs. I'm like, wait, that's not just the sound, that's the muzzle flash. Holy shit. They choreographed the gunfights, and more than just like Matrix, like bullet time effects. They choreographed to music. What? I walked out of this movie loving it. Like the car racing, the story. There are talks right now of a potential. Sony and Edgar Wright are in discussions for a potential sequel to the film. It sets itself up for that. I would love that. I hope it takes a lot less time than 23 years. 23 years or so for this to happen. But yeah. So neither of you guys have seen this, right?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
I honestly recommend this. I mean, the soundtrack alone is good, but the story that they're telling, it is a classic story of, baby, he's got, when you come in here, you realize he's being coerced by Kevin Spacey's character to do this, to pay off a debt. And I was like, oh well, yeah, now you're all owed up, you're all settled up and stuff. But then where it goes from there, it's like, oh wow, you realize baby is where he is doing, it's a lot like the Vulture, where he's doing bad things, he's doing them for the good reason, and he's never if he can help it, he tries to eliminate as much death as possible. He still has his moral compass, which is great to see in here. And it's like, this is one of those movies where I didn't see the turnarounds of the characters, like these character switches, like I did with last week's choice of Valerian, where I was able to pick out like bad guy like 10 minutes into the movie. And all that. But yeah, I highly recommend it. And actually I want to get the soundtrack. And also a nice little side jag. For the soundtrack, Edgar Wright consulted with James Gunn, the director of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, to ensure the two films did not feature the same songs on their soundtracks.
Oh, that's smart.
Yes, that is smart. That is cool. I'm like, you guys are brilliant. So,
yeah.
With all that being said, it is just about time to wrap it up here with us. But before we go, Shawn, why don't you tell people more about you and what you do, and where they can find you?
Oh my. Well,
no pressure, right?
Yeah, no pressure at all. In short, I'm an all-around audio guy. Anything audio, I usually get my hands into and like to play around with, and I usually help out people with their personal projects. I have a site called audio-ace.net, and basically I help people record and produce better audio.
Nice. All right, and where can people? Are you on the Twitters or anything like that?
Yeah, I have a Twitter called Ask Audio Ace, and if you tweet at me like that, I usually respond within an hour or so.
Nice, cool. So that's audio-ace.net, and then Ask Audio Ace on Twitter.
That's right.
Sweet. And so that is going to wrap it up here for us. We mentioned before the Patreon, gncast.com/support. If you want to leave us any feedback whatsoever, you could always contact us by leaving us a voicemail at 805-328-3966 or sending us an email at mail@elsenerds.com. And all these subscription links and options can be found over at gncasts.com/subscribe. Galactic Netcast will find, in your various social medias will find us, wherever they might be, whether it be Facebook, over at facebook.com/GN or Galactic Netcasts, Twitter at Galactic Netcasts. Our show is at ElseNerds. You can follow the producers. Beatmaster is over there at Beatmaster80. Evan is at Mr_Fusion. Corey is at don'taskcomics.com. He will be back relatively soon. For those of you guys who are wondering, he is fine. The car may or may not be totaled, so he's just having car troubles. That is why he has not been on. And Shawn, we can find your stuff at SBurnsPA, but I'm seeing 2 new links in here, 2 new Twitter links in here. You care to explain those?
Yeah, so
segue to cheap plug.
Exactly. Yeah, a show that I have done previously with my son Kevin, exploring the X-Files, is all set to come back. I've got a new co-host. Her name is Ariel Jane. She's also the host of Murder Under the Midnight Sun. It's an Alaskan true crime podcast, and it's really wonderful. You should definitely check that out. But she's going to be joining me for Exploring the X-Files, and we start recording this very weekend. So new episodes of that coming soon to Galactic Network. And I'm just going to tease this a little bit. I have another new project I'm working on that will be coming to Galactic Netcast in the near future. Just go over to Twitter and follow at Song Stories Pod. And you'll see what's going on there. It's a lot of fun. So check those 2 out, and I'd appreciate it.
Awesome.
And the final thing to be said is this has been a Don't Tell Glenn production. We will see you next week.
Or else.
For more on this Galactic Network podcast, go to gncast.com. That's GNCASTS.com.